Women in Energy Modeling. This is an event of the energy modeling community. Let me first start by just introducing everybody to Climate Compatible Growth. We are a UK aid-funded program that brings together some of the UK's leading universities to support climate transition in the global south. We work closely both with policymakers and local universities to strengthen the science-policy interface. And we do this by empowering local practitioners to perform their own analysis via open source modeling tools that we curate, capacity building events that we organize, and research collaboration with our university partners. Among our capacity building efforts, the energy modeling platforms known as EMP are our flagship event, and they are based on close partnership with many other international organizations, including UNECA, UNDESA, IEA, IRENA, World Bank, and many others. To date, we're proud that we have been able to train over 600 alumni, of whom almost 30% are women, which represents about 200 women energy modelers who have passed through the EMP platform. In addition, we are very proud that several of our women alumni have come back to be trained as trainers and are now have reached a level of competence that they are able to train others. The EMP is now entering a new phase with the recent launch of the Energy Modeling Community, EMC, which is a program designed to support EMP alumni with ongoing troubleshooting, skills building, and professional enrichment activities. And this EMC has now entered its pilot phase. In addition to providing very deep technical support to modelers in different communities of models, EMP also provides an opportunity to network the alumni community based on special interest groups. Hence, this is a first effort to bring together the female members of the energy modeling community as an opportunity to learn about what challenges they have faced in their career journeys, as well as what support may be beneficial to them. So welcome to the event. I would like to, first of all, introduce the four panelists. So we're delighted to have with us Bibi, Nabilah, Hassen, who's a researcher and doctoral student at the University of Mauritius. She has been an alumna from one of our previous EMPs, and we're delighted to have her back. We're also delighted to have another alumna, Nadia Ouedraogo, one of the first women to take our energy modeling platform courses, currently Economic Affairs Officer at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. In addition, we're delighted to be accompanied by two representatives of international organizations that are doing a great deal to support female professional development. Christine Linz, who's the Executive Director of the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, GWNET, as well as Payal Patel, Associate Program Officer at TWAS, the World Academy of Sciences, an organization linked to UNESCO and ICTP, and also within that umbrella, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World. So a warm welcome to all of our panelists. Before we start with the panel discussions, if we could just have the next slide, I would like to mention that we will be doing some interactive polling during this event, which will allow the participants to express their own views about the topics in question. So I'd like to ask all the participants to join the Slido conversation at slido.com using the code number represented, or simply to scan the QR code. And we will be interjecting some participant questions and comments throughout the conversation, as well as having a period for Q&A at the end. So I'd like to start, first of all, with a question to our panelists, a brief introductory question. Before we dive into the topic at hand, we'd just like you to introduce yourself and tell our participants something about your own career journey, what you've achieved, and where you are currently placed. So maybe, Nadia, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, of course. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. So I'm Nadia Ouedraogo. I have a PhD in economics and particularly macroeconomics and development economics. As Vivien said, currently Economic Affairs Officer with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. My current works involve macroeconomic modeling more broadly, but that also include modeling of energy impact on economic development or macroeconomic indicators and climate change impact modeling. Also start to get a really interest in critical minerals and its impact on economic development. So this is maybe briefly what I can say about myself and my professional work currently. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Nadia. Christine, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Vivien. Thanks for the invite. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning from wherever you watch us. My name is Christine Lienz. I'm currently the Executive Director of GWNET, the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, which I co-founded back in 2017 out of an observation that there was no global network connecting women back then. Women's networks are often less developed than the networks of their male colleagues. And very often I heard when doing international presentations that women lack role models. So that was the intrinsic motivation. I have a career of 25 years of service in the renewable sector, mainly both at the Regional Energy Agency in my home country, Austria, then 10 years setting up a representative body of the European industry, trade and research community in the renewables field, and then heading the Secretariat of REN21, the Renewable Energy Policy Network for the 21st Century, where I also interacted a lot with Vivien back in her time at the World Bank. And nowadays I'm based in my home country in Austria. So after 17 years abroad, I'm back home, which also feels great. And I look forward to our interesting conversation today.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Christine. Payal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Vivien. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Payal Patel, and I'm the Associate Program Officer here at the World Academy of Sciences, which is also known as TWAS. TWAS is a program unit of UNESCO, and as Vivien already mentioned before, we also have within TWAS what we call the OWSD, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, that basically deals with capacity building programs specifically for women scientists and researchers. Yes, my journey at TWAS started with running the programs and looking after the programs, and now I'm quite glad to say that I can co-design and implement these programs as well. So as a woman myself, I do keep that in mind when designing programs and when we write proposals to our potential funders and donors as well. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the session.
Thank you so much, Payal. Welcome. Nabilah, over to you.
Good morning or good afternoon from wherever you're joining us today. My name is Nabilah Hassen. I am from Mauritius Island. I'm sure many of you don't know where Mauritius is found. So it is a tiny dot in the Indian Ocean on the southeastern coast of Africa. I am currently pursuing my PhD in engineering at the University of Mauritius, specializing in decarbonizing the energy system of African small island developing states. My passion for energy field began with my bachelor's dissertation project. And after earning my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, I began my career as a trainee engineer at a local energy utility. Then I transitioned to academia as a researcher at the University of Mauritius, where I have attended international research conference, which sparked my interest in energy modeling and its potential to drive meaningful change in my community. This motivated me to pursue a Master of Philosophy and eventually my current PhD. Throughout my academic journey, I have contributed to several research papers and co-authored the book chapter and I have a few more publications in progress. That's all about me. Thank you.
Wonderful, Nabilah. Thank you very much. And we're delighted to have such a diverse panel representing women at different stages in their careers from different continents, and both from a kind of country, regional, and international perspective. So that's wonderful. I must admit, I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of the event. So I should mention that I'm Vivien Foster. I'm the International Partnerships Lead for Climate Compatible Growth. And I'm also an academic based at Imperial College, London. So it's a pleasure to be your chair today. So we're going to move now into the sort of main part of the session. And I wanted to just check, first of all, with our participants that you have logged into the Slido thing. And maybe Carla, we can put the slide up one more time. I think there were some people late coming in, maybe just to encourage everybody who's participating to join the Slido interactive poll, either by using the QR code or going to the website and putting in the code number. I think we would like to begin to have you answer the first two questions that Carla will administer around, which are the questions we're also going to pose to the panel. So the first questions are going to be around the challenges. So we'd like to understand what were the main challenges, panelists, that you encountered as a woman while building these very exciting careers that you've just shared with us. How was it challenging? Was it not challenging? What were the types of challenges that you faced? And if anyone would okay, so we're just getting the feedback coming in from the participants, and we are finding that the largest number of people so far found it somewhat challenging. They had a few challenges that were manageable, but we have some, the other half found it considerably more challenging. So let's hear from the panelists about your experience. Who would like to begin? Yeah, Christine, do you want to start?
Sure, I can get started. Well, I will never forget a main encounter I had in the early days in my career. I was sent to a conference on energy efficiency in the region, at the far most western region in Austria. And the conference, there were about 100 people attending the event. I was the only woman. And that was back in the 90s. And it felt really awkward because these other participants, mostly men in gray suits, they all remembered me. I didn't recall any of them because they all looked the same to me. And I think, I mean, although things have changed, the situation is still not gender balanced. I mean, it has never happened to me anymore that I went to an event where I was the only woman. But still, we still are confronted with men-only panels, and I think it's important for us to really speak up, and also to alert conference organizers when they have not a very gender balanced program to maybe suggest additional experts. So there is still a challenge. I think to get your voice heard. I also earlier this week I'm on a panel of a nomination committee for a lifetime achievement award of a major scientific institution. Out of the 5 finalists, there's 1 woman. You know, and I think that says it all. And we have this evidence that also all the publications, the scientific papers that are published. The majority are published by men, and women they often do great work, but they don't get the visibility for their work. And so I think this is a challenge, and it can be overcome. And I think it's also the obligation for all of us to support each other and to really make sure that this world is getting a bit more gender balanced, not in very small steps, but in more quantum leaps. So there is a long way to go. And I think also like your initiative is great, where you said you have 30% of women scientists. I think, you know, they are out there, but sometimes it takes an extra effort to encourage them to participate in the program and to actually find them. And I think this is really important.
Wonderful, Christine. Thank you. A very, very, very brief follow-up. How did it feel to be the only woman there? What effect did that have on you?
Well, it looked really, I mean, I was very young. I was in my late 20s, and it felt really awkward because, you know, it just confirmed that the energy sector is a very male-dominated one. And you shouldn't be discouraged by this. You know, fortunately, things are getting slightly better, but it's definitely an awkward feeling.
Thanks very much. Anyone would like to go next?
Sure.
I can, yeah, sorry. It's okay?
Nadia, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I just when Christine was speaking, I just remember when I did this training on set with CCG. It's that was 2020 or 2019, not far away, right? Long away, long time ago. Sorry, but at that time we were a couple of us, maybe 2, 3. Not more than 5 women in the cohort, and I did not really. For me, it was not an issue, and if we did it online. I think that was at the beginning of COVID, and we did it online. It was not a big issue for me per se, but then to have your voice heard, it was quite challenging when we have those group work of work or practice. Then it was difficult to just, you know, have your voice heard or even have space to speak. And you feel like sometimes you have to speak louder to be heard or have your ideas taken into account. But more generally speaking, I think that it's challenging for women in technical fields. After I graduated from high school and I have to choose what major I wanted to do at the university, it was like, oh, you can do law or you can do social science, but what is more like macroeconomics and econometrics is like overlooked, or people would say, oh, why would you want to do this? And from there, we were very few in the class, and it just keep being the same over the years, even if, of course, getting to now or a few years ago, it's getting better. But it's still like a few women in a class that is a called technical field or technical class. And later on, when I start working, I think the main issue was like a network barrier. As Christian said, is like a men-dominated area. And boys club, and it sometimes feel difficult when you don't have women among them to network or even to get through the different process, official and non-official process of selection or getting promoted. Yeah, I mean, I also lack a lot of representation, role model in the sense that particularly in African context, there were very few women that you could look up or go for advice when it's come to technical fields more broadly, and of course, energy modeling. So that would be my experience of being a woman in the technical field or in energy modeling. Okay.
Thanks, Nadia. That's really interesting. And you sort of brought up the question of even the choice in the first place, right? That very few people actually make that choice. And the absence of networks and the absence of role models being a very important factor. I think that sort of connects with what Christine was saying. But also the other message I got from both of you is the difficulty of being both seen and heard. So having visibility, having audibility seems to be a recurring challenge for women. I just wanted to comment that I guess our first poll closed, and I think we were at about 44% somewhat challenging, I think about 28% extremely challenging, and the rest sort of somewhere in between. So that was interesting. And I'd like to encourage participants to take the second polling question, which is around the actual nature of the challenges that you face. It's a word cloud question. If we could perhaps start to get to, yes. So in one word only, what is the biggest challenge you face pursuing the career in energy modeling? And we'll show the word cloud in a little while as the answers come in. But I'd like to turn now to, I think, Payal, who was ready to make her contribution on this question of the challenges. Over to you.
Thank you. I think obviously, as you may have gathered, I cannot take credit for necessarily being a woman in energy modeling, but of course, as a woman and reaching my career where I have, I think for me, I think you both, Nadia and Christine, both touched upon this, that for me, the main, in my personal case, what I lacked really was female mentors. And I think this is crucial for all of us, in particular for us women. And oftentimes being a minority in male-dominated teams, Christine, you touched upon this as well. And, you spoke about your experience in the 90s, but I feel that it's very similar today. As Nadia said, in 2019, she faced something similar. So I think this can lead to feelings of isolation and self-doubt as well. We may be quite secure, but I think when we're put in those situations and we face that and we start doubting ourselves, and what I tend to call is maybe the imposter syndrome, where we feel we're not as capable as our male peers, regardless of the qualifications. So I think that this is where we're responsible. I think us as women as well, we really are responsible. We need to work on ourselves to ensure that we speak up when we're provided with that opportunity. Or in my case, a couple of times I found myself having a seat at the table, but then I noticed that I'm probably either the only female or maybe the youngest at the table, etc. So I kind of, go into my shell and say, yeah, well, maybe my experience isn't good enough, or maybe my expertise are not as relevant. So I think this is something that we as women need to keep in mind as well. And another issue that I think Nadia brought up is limited access to influential networks. I think networks are crucial for anybody to grow and to maybe climb up the ladder, not just women, but in general within STEM as well. And I think men often have more robust informal networks that facilitate career growth and open up job opportunities, whereas we may find it that much harder to break into these networks.
Thank you so much, Payal. So the theme of networks, of mentors and role models is a very strong one that's coming through in the conversation. And I love the way that you characterize the sort of the psychological implications of that in terms of isolation, self-doubt. And I think this concept of the imposter syndrome, which has become now quite a widely used label, but I think wasn't even around a few years back. But I think a lot of us can identify with that as well. Nabilah, let's hear from you and how these challenges have affected you in your own journey.
On my side, I was among the few individuals at the university to use these tools. So when I faced some obstacles, there were very few resources or peers to turn to, leaving me to navigate the field largely on my own. It often felt as women perspective are undervalued, and energy modeling itself was seen as a softer side of engineering, with little recognition of its importance. Today, I believe the challenges women face are more rooted in societal conditioning, which cause them to underestimate their abilities and hesitate to advocate for themselves. This can limit the progress in a highly competitive technical field. But over time, I got comfortable asking for help and sharing more with my peers and even the elder ones in the academic field. Another challenge I encountered initially in my research journey was the reluctance of academic and industry professionals to share information and data. This hesitance likely stemmed from concerns with probably commercial sensitivity. Many may have feared that sharing could provide competitors and with an advantage or exposed vulnerabilities. Additionally, it is possible that some individuals struggle to gather the necessary information themselves and were thus unwilling to share. Over time, however, the landscape shifted with an increasing number of researchers choosing to make data available through open source resources. In the past, this lack of accessibility to information was a considerable obstacle in getting started. Now, having experienced this difficulty on my own, I am committed to sharing my findings with my colleagues, and this has fostered greater level of trust and confidence among my peers, including the senior academics who feel more comfortable now to approach me for insights, into methodologies, or tools I am.
Thank you so much, Nabilah. So you're pointing really to the whole culture that surrounds you, and the fact that you felt underestimated or perhaps undervalued, and that the whole culture was somehow unsupportive, with a lack of kind of sharing of either support or just information or interaction, and how it sounds like you've actually been taking efforts yourself to try and move the needle on that culture, which is wonderful. I couldn't resist asking just a broad follow-up question to the panel, which is, I'm very struck that none of you mentioned family obligations. And I'm just wondering if that's just the sample that we have, or whether you, does anyone want to say anything about family obligations? Yes, Christine, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I have put that in the word cloud, combined work and family. So it is there. I mean, it's maybe also because I became a mother at the in very late days in my career. So I think it makes a difference. And then, you know, when you're older, you're probably more established and you can better afford to look for support when raising your children. But overall, it is a challenge. And I saw just a really good cartoon today on LinkedIn about this, where it was, you know, there is a sprint and there are the men and they have no obstacles in front. And then there are 3 women and they have the kids and the washing machine and the household duties. I mean, it's generalized, and luckily we also have very progressive men out there that support. But in general, that this is absolutely true. And this brings me also back to this networking challenge, because what we find out is very often women think that networking is a luxury, and they do this. Their time is very compressed, so they don't have much time because many of them work part-time, and so they don't manage to come to the networking part because they don't have enough time, and they consider it as a nice thing to do, but not as a must do. And what we are actually really advising is, you know, don't be present everywhere, because you will not be able to do so, but choose your channels and then cultivate them constantly and make this really a part of your day-to-day work, because it will pay off in the long run, and it's something that you should not forget to do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Christine, for those insights on, you know, how the family also interacts with, you know, how your career is sequenced, and the question of undervaluing the importance of networking and the time. Does anyone else want to come in on just this question of family obligations? No comments?
Mm-hmm. I can add maybe a little bit on what Christian said. It's but that's not necessarily on modeling, energy modeling, but globally speaking, on the work field or environment, it's very difficult. I'll take maybe the example on trying to publish papers, and you know that sometimes you get stuck, even so when you're trying to do some technical stuff, and you need time to go past this maybe obstacle that you will face. And then currently here, I see colleagues that can stay very late at the office. They can leave at 9 p.m. and come back early in the morning. But when you have children that are young, even so, those are things you cannot do. During the weekend, they can just come at the office and work over time or have as long as they want. Those are, again, things that is difficult, maybe not impossible, but difficult for women who have young children. So definitely in the end, you might end up having more obstacle and less time to really work on advancing your career. And on the networking, you might be aware that it's necessarily, all right, but then you still need time. Usually for male colleagues after work that they will go for a drink, but then when you have to go quickly back home to take care of the children, here again, maybe I'm simplifying the things, but usually this is what you face. You cannot go out weekends or after work to network, this kind of networking, of course, because you have some family obligation. So yeah, those are kind of things that maybe come across our way.
Thanks, Nadia. I think you put your finger on something very important, which is that, while we all aspire to having work-life balance, I think men often have the freedom to neglect that balance at times, sometimes all the time, sometimes, in critical moments of their careers, they can sort of ignore everything else, or they have greater freedom to ignore everything else. Probably precisely because they do have a family behind them who's supporting them. But women are often in that family role, providing the support, and therefore feel much more constrained in terms of time. And I think that certainly the experience of being a mother in particular introduces acute time constraints for people. And that means that exactly as you described it, that there isn't that space to kind of put in that extra spurt of energy. And that makes the competition, the playing field a little bit unlevel in terms of the competition maybe between men and women in career spaces. Christine, did you want to come back in on that?
Yeah, if I can just briefly mention, because I heard last week something which I thought is quite a good tip of a mother of 3 children. She has her own business. And then she said, of course, like you, she can't go out constantly to network with people, but then she chooses her networking spots wisely. And she does one every 2 weeks or every week or whatever she can afford, and then choose really the spots that are of high relevance, where she's likely to meet the people. And the other thing, she's the author of a book which says, which is a plaidoyer that women who are mothers, they acquire fantastic skills for management, because they have to all the time juggle conflicting priorities, tight schedules. They need to already pre-estimate or feel what their children need. So they are really good team leaders also. And rather than just seeing it as an obstacle, I think we should also step up in our self-confidence and just acknowledge that we learn a lot of skills when raising a child or when having a family, and these can be projected to the work background.
Fascinating. Thanks very much, Christine. And I can certainly understand how the family obligations generate, really very good management skills. So we're seeing on the screen here that the sort of the views of our participants coming into focus, and this kind of mentorship, by which I think people mean lack of mentorship, because these are challenges, looms largest, as well as, the family things are actually a little bit smaller in this. As you can see, there's a few family responsibilities, family, maternity, but by and large, it's the support and the networking and that seem to come through more strongly. The word financing has come through quite strongly as well, and we haven't talked about that yet, but maybe that's something that we can come to in the next part of the conversation. But also a lot of these things about just, sense of self-confidence in terms of, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, resistance, bias, isolation, etc. So I think very interesting to see this, and do please keep adding words. But we're now going to shift into the second part of the conversation, which is where we really want to put the emphasis, which is on the, what are the potential solutions to this? And I'd like to turn to my panel and say, what kind of support has been most helpful to you, and what is the best kind of support that that we organizations such as ours can provide to other women? What are the tools that we have at our disposal to provide that support? Payal, do you want to start us on that with your kind of global view through UNESCO? And maybe also we can get our colleagues to move into the next question, the participants to move into the next question. Please go ahead, Payal.
Thank you, Vivien. Yes, I think addressing these challenges, they really require structural change in including better diversity and also including policies. So in my role, for example, TWAS has a large unit of capacity building programs. And of course, these range from PhD fellowships to postdoctoral fellowships, exchange and mobility research visits for scientists. So we primarily work with countries in the developing world. And I think for me as a woman, as somebody that's writing proposals to approach donors and co-designing programs, we take this very much into account in the sense that what are we doing for our women scientists or for our women applicants, for example. I think Christine touched upon this a little bit, that a lot of the times, even when we look at the number of applications that we receive, there is a majority of the applications that come from our male applicants. So, of course, we start at the stage of dissemination. At that point, we make sure that our dissemination, our programs are reaching the right women out there. So when designing programs, for example, in some of our programs, we have specific components within the program for women scientists. We, for example, one of our programs, we've got something that we call the Scientist After Child. The Scientist After Child component, which is for our research grants program, where scientists who have obtained their PhD, they may have obtained their PhD from outside their home country as well. They're returning home, but they've got an empty lab. What do you do with an empty laboratory? I've got a great PhD from a great university in Germany or in the UK or in France, but I'm now going back home and I've got nowhere to start with. They apply for these grants, and we have a lot of components within the grants, but one of the specific ones that we've designed, the Scientist After Child, is specifically for a woman who at the time of the application is either pregnant or has a child under the age of 12 months. What she receives as part of the grant is she receives support for a research assistant for 12 months. Now, the reason we do this, we don't give childcare support, but we give support for research assistants, is that she can then stay at home with her child rather than hire a nanny or a babysitter who's staying with her child while she continues to work in the lab. And this is something where we've received feedback from some of these women scientists, and they say, this is amazing because I see a difference between my firstborn child and my second child. The second child, the fact that she was able to recruit a research assistant and she herself as a mother could stay with her child, she notices a very big difference, whereas the first child who grew up with a nanny. So these are components that we design. We keep in mind our evaluation criteria. So when our scientific experts are evaluating the applications, our evaluation form takes into account scoring when we're scoring for women scientists as opposed to the male scientists. We create programs of, for example, a new program we've created is a collaborative grant where we're encouraging two scientists to come together to conduct interdisciplinary research. But it is fundamental, it is mandatory in the application form that one has to be a male and the other has to be a female. If we receive an application where it's both male, that application is considered to be ineligible because we realize that there is a lack of network, there is a lack of, there's no collaboration between male and female scientists or male and female counterparts within, and not just in developing countries, but even in the North. So this is something that we make mandatory when we're designing our programs. And we also take into consideration deferred starts or extensions for women scientists in cases of family leave or in cases where they fall pregnant and they need to take time off for maternity. So these are some of the components that we keep at our forefront when designing programs and when implementing and running our programs as well.
Thank you very much, Payal. And you've obviously thought very deeply about how to craft the different kinds of financial support in a way that really tailors to the situation of women, and that embodies, I'm sure, years of reflection and experience. So that's very interesting. It's also good to know that there are sources of finance for women in these situations, which was one of the issues that our participants had brought up. Christine, I know that you also offer a lot of support programs for women. Can you tell us a little bit about the work of GWNET in that regard?
Yes, indeed. We have noticed that often, and we talked about it, I mean, name it imposter syndrome. I can also name it a bit lack of confidence. Often women are not as confident as their male peers. And we have identified that mentoring is a really great tool for providing this bit of extra confidence. So we have started small with our own mentoring program with 10 mentees back in 2018. We have over the last years mentored over 900 women from 90 countries. And our biggest program last year had 160 mentees from 22 countries. So it is working. In our last program we do with the World Bank on women in energy storage, we got for 30 seats, 130 applicants from 46 countries. So, people ask, is word of mouth, it's spreading, which means that they enjoy. And what also lets me know that the people really benefit from it is that we managed to recruit lots of mentors, of mentees who have participated in the program and who feel the need to give back and register themselves as mentors in the pool. So I think this is something really rewarding. And what I found, what personally I totally underestimated. So of course, the bilateral interaction between mentee and mentor, we then select really handpicked mentor for the mentees based on the goal that she has been stipulating in her application form. But what I underestimated is that people also enjoy networking with their peers, and they get in touch with each other, and like this they create these international networks. Because I've been so used to working in this international level that I have my network. I was not thinking that this is an important component, but often people don't have this, and this is always great to see when new connections are established. And then the absolute biggest highlight in some of our programs, we have some budget to then bring the people physically together in a study tour. We just have organized, I think 2 weeks ago, a study tour for women in energy from Central Asia. And they came for a week to Vienna and met with all different energy institutions, but also had some courses on female leadership and really got to know each other. And this is absolutely great. So we see that mentoring is a very powerful tool to provide this extra confidence and to encourage people then to step up and take up the challenge of the next career step.
Wonderful, Christine. Thank you. That's really, truly very impressive. The sort of exponential growth in the mentoring program, and the people willing to come back and be mentors, and also that the importance of both, having that senior relationship, but also the collegial kind of peer group. Those are all really important lessons, I think, for us as we reflect on how we can, through the energy modeling community, also support people in this kind of way. Nabilah, do you want to comment from your side the kind of support that you think is important?
Really, community and networking are important. When you're alone, it's difficult to keep up with this dynamic field. The energy landscape is changing quickly. You might be working on something today and tomorrow it's completely obsolete. Whereas when you are part of a community, it is easier to keep up with the trending topics by sharing with like-minded people. I think networking was pivotal in my early years as a researcher. I spent considerable time on LinkedIn connecting with others interested in energy modeling, which exposed me to tools and other types of methodologies. And by the end of my first year as a master's student, I established connection with energy modelers in Borneo Island, and we grew together through our shared experience. And I must admit that attending the Energy Modeling Platform for Africa was one of the transformative experience for me, because I gained fresh perspective on the tool I was already using. And most importantly, I found a supportive community that helped troubleshoot my models through mentoring sessions. So I firmly believe that collaborating, networking, and sharing our journeys are key drivers for progress.
Thanks, Nabilah. It's good to get your confirmation of the importance of these types of networking and support systems. And we're glad to hear that the EMP was a positive factor in your own journey. Nadia, what about your perspective on this?
Let me maybe talk about myself, and then I can briefly on the inclusive workplace policies as the UN is implementing or trying to implement it. Personally, I will say that networking has been crucial for me, and also continuous learning. Personally, that continuous learning is a way for me to overcome this imposter syndrome that we all might feel from time to time, and having some knowledge, like a continuously learning, allowed me to kind of justify that I would get like my position or a promotion, etc. It was that helped me to silent a little bit this a voice that was telling me that I'm not good enough or I'm not good as my colleagues. On the institutional level currently, and I think this is crucial, we have to advocate for an inclusive workplace, for a gender parity at the workplace. You might, most of you might know that the UN has been always, advocating for gender parity, but over the past 7 years, it has become more strong. And this willing has become more strong, and currently everywhere and at the old position, they're trying to get 50-50 parity. And that's meaning in a division, if you are 14 people, it might be we might have 5 men and 5 women. And this kind of strong advocacy, I think, has some concrete result. But at the same time, what I notice inside, and this is the limit of the process, it's like people are getting nervous not to be promoted because it should be given priority, should be given to a woman, and not getting the job they want or they apply to, because they has to hire women to get to this parity. And that can bring a very weird dynamic at the workplace. I am not quite sure yet what can be the solution to it, but definitely to mitigate this side effect. But definitely, I think that inclusive workplace policies are key, particularly at the international level and institutions such as the UN, to be able to start making some changes. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadia. So yeah, it was interesting to hear how the sort of professional continuous learning, I think you called it, that kind of continuous professional enrichment helped you in terms of the self-confidence and, in a sense, being able to point objectively to your skills and qualifications that helped you in those kind of career decisions that were made. It's interesting to hear about the UN, trying to be a very enlightened and gender balanced employer, and both the kind of the positives and the potential downsides of a very kind of regulatory approach to that. But it'd be interesting to watch how that unfolds going forward. I wonder if we can reveal the answers so far that the participants have been giving us. So again, the word mentorship is the largest word right in the beginning, right in the middle of the word cloud. But clearly a combination of mentoring and sort of training and learning is coming through quite strongly from our participants, as well as a few kind of broader, more cultural things around inclusivity, flexibility, encouragement, and so on. So I'd like to now open it up to hear any questions or comments from our participants. I do believe my colleagues are monitoring any questions. I'd like to encourage the participants to put questions in the chat, in the Q&A function. And if any of my colleagues have questions that they can read out, this would be a good moment to do that. Do we have any questions, Kane, Carla?
Yeah, there's Kane, do you want to go first?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, there was just a comment from Leslie to know about opportunities about mentorship, and then there was a question from Peter, but maybe Peter, you want to read it out. Otherwise, still waiting to get some question from the panel, from the audience.
Okay, so please, thanks, Carla. Please, participants, do put your questions in the Q&A. It's confusing because there's a Q&A and there's a chat, but the Q&A is the place to put the questions. In the meantime, Kane, did you want to share anything that you've picked up so far from what participants have put down?
There is maybe one question that Peter put forward that might be useful for the panel to answer. It was just, I wonder how many women are members of a professional female-centric organization, and if the panel have any that they think people could join, could they please suggest them? So I'm not sure if anyone on the panel has any thoughts on that, but if you do, feel free to comment on that.
Great, thanks. And so we'll take those in a moment, but I think if participants please do jot down your questions in the Q&A, and colleagues, if you can monitor. So in the meantime, let's take those 2 points. So one is, we've heard a lot about mentorship, so how can people actually get it? And the other is, are there any professional organizations that people could join or should join or may want to consider that would be useful? Any guidance from the panelists on either of those questions? Christine, do get us started.
Yes. So obviously, I didn't mention, but GWNET is a membership-based organization, so you can join the network. It's free of charge, and you'll connect with over 4,500 members from 150 countries. Women or organizations supporting women in the energy space. We also work with women in energy networks from all around the world. So I just saw earlier on that there is somebody from Ethiopia, from the Ethiopian Women in Energy Network here on this call. That network got founded by a mentee in our first program that enjoyed it so much that she said, I'm going to create a network in my own country of women in energy. This is always great, a great success story, because when people receive something and then give back and do something good for their community, this is always good. So through the GWNET website, you can also access various national and regional women in energy networks. And if you don't find anything, you can always reach out to me, and I might direct you to some people I know. And sometimes in many countries, these networks, they start small, they start informally, and then they formalize their structures. But there are many out there, and it's definitely worth connecting. And then you have to check whether the chemistry works for you and whether you find it interesting to collaborate with these people, because as I said, I think you need to be strategic and choose the kind of network you want to engage with.
Very helpful, Christine. Thanks. Payal, I think you may also want to share something on this.
Yes, I just pasted the link on the chat for the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World. This is also a membership-based organization. I think till date they have over 10,000 women members from all over the world. And then within that memberships, of course, what it means for the women members is that there are national chapters within some of the countries that come together, and some national chapters includes more than one country. And then there are events and conferences, etc., organized, which are then circulated within the members of the OWSD.
Thank you very much. Nadia, did you want to talk about the Female Leadership Program?
Yeah, the female leadership program is an interesting one because they offered a leadership coaching program to people, to their member. And it was very helpful to me. I have like a whole program. I think it was on over 3 months. I have formal classes, and then you have a coaching session with a coach one-to-one for about 1 month, and it helps me. So in that sense, I think that you can just have a look and see if it works for you. I think you have different types of membership, coaching, etc. And it's all to find the one who suits you the best, as Christine said. But I think this one is worth taking a look. And yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Those are excellent suggestions. And I also want to mention that as part of the energy modeling community, we are, exploring the possibility of mentoring within the community. As I mentioned, we have approximately 200 women who are energy modelers. So we are interested. So if members of the community are interested in something of this nature, please do contact us. Our community coordinator, Kate Alexander, is on the screen. So do let us know, as this is something that we would like to explore. But I think there's a lot to be learned from institutions that maybe have much more experience in this area. So we would want to stay in touch very much with yourselves. So if there are no other comments or
2 more questions.
Changed.
There are 2 more questions if you would like to go through them.
Sure, if you want to, just let us know what they are.
So the first one has partly been answered, but it was just, how could potential mentors sign up and qualify to help? And does CCG offer anything? So I think maybe that's something that's going to come, but maybe you can answer that, Vivien. And then the second question was, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the discussions. Are there any opportunities for people that want to transition into the energy space without any current experience?
Right. So maybe let's take the second question first. I don't know if anyone on the panel has any views on that. And Christine, do you want to come in on that one?
Well, the thing is, you could always sign up to GWNET. You sign up to our newsletter, you get a lot of insights in what's going on. I think it's always good to familiarize yourself. There might be then upcoming opportunities where you can apply for mentoring programs. We deliberately called the name of the network a Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, because we think that it needs lots of various talents for people to change and to engage in this transition. And so we also have programs where there are participants from conventional energy players who are interested in moving towards more sustainability and more climate-friendly solutions, because they will also be part of the equation. So look what's out there. There are lots of networks, and then just start informing yourself about the possibility of those. If you want to become a mentor with GWNET, I'll post the link. You can also register for our pool, and then based on the needs we have when matching the mentees with mentors, we then might reach out to you. We always ask people upfront whether they are still available to serve on these programs. But of course, and we also have men as mentors. So though the majority of our mentors are women, there's also a lot of valuable advice in the men. And there are lots of progressive men that are willing to support women. So of course, those would be also welcome to join the pool.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone else wants to make any final comments from the panel, any final observations. If not, it only remains for me to thank very much our wonderful panelists who've given us so many insights, both personal and institutional, about their own journeys, which I think are very inspiring and very encouraging. So thank you so much for that. I'd also like to thank our participants who have given us some of their questions and comments, but also participated in the interactive polls so that we get a good sense of where you're coming from and we can build that into our own thinking. So many thanks for that. I think from the energy modeling community side, the next step really would be for people who are interested to contact Kane Alexander around whether they think they could play a mentoring or mentee role within the specific context of energy modeling. I don't think our expertise lies in that broader mentorship, which I think career mentorship, which is perhaps more aligned with institutions like GWNET. However, I do think we can play a role in a small way within the modeling community to support career development. So do let us know your thoughts. Do spread the word. I think we'll make the recording of this available for those who may not have been able to join us at this precise moment. And then based on that, we will reflect on how we can best serve you in this area. So thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure and an inspiration to be in touch with everybody. And we wish you all the best and we'll remain in touch through the energy modeling community. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
thanks
Have a nice day.
for your good moderation and very animated discussion. Very nice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
You're
much.
most welcome. Very good.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.